The Kalen DeBoer era got off to a rousing start in Tuscaloosa as Alabama routed Western Kentucky 63-0. Now they've got a date with South Florida. And if you recall last season, coming off the loss against Texas, Alabama limped to a victory against South Florida. And that was hailed as the turnaround as Jalen Milroe was benched, got back in the lineup, and Alabama took off to a playoff appearance from there. The two meet in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. We got Steve Merrill here from Wager Talk to break down all the major games. So check out the team channels across the board here at the Voice of College Football with Steve's selections on all the big games. Steve, again, Kalen DeBoer got that offense revved up and rolling in week one.
Yeah, and I thought he would. In fact, I had a strong best bet, a client best bet for my personal clients at wagertalk.com last week. I even had a free play video on Wager Talk TV in which I gave Alabama out free to everybody, and it turned out to be a best bet later the week the more I dug into it. We had almost 6 points of line value based on my simulation. This week, we don't get quite as much value. My projected simulation, 10,000 games run through the database on average, has Alabama winning by just under 34 points. So I do think the line is a little bit short still. And in general, my simulations normally lean to the big favorites in September because, as we've often talked about, big favorites do quite well early in the season. And that was the case last week. Alabama was the best bet. I also had Texas as a free play on one of the shows last week at Wager Talk. They blew out Colorado State. What was it, 52-0. So the only way to play it would be to lay it here, in my opinion. I do think we still get some value as long as it stays 31 or less. Once it gets to 31.5 or more, 32, 33, they're kind of what we call dead numbers. I project a 34, 35-point win. So I like Bama at minus 31 or less. And you mentioned that South Florida game last year. That was that ugly, lackluster 17-3 win. The quarterback situation is different. Even though it's a new head coach, it's not Saban anymore. I think there's still poster board material. So whenever we're playing these big favorites, we always want to make sure there's a focus spot. Last week, we obviously had that in DeBoer's first home game for Alabama, but I think we have it again here. And something else I want to point out about how these big favorites have covered in recent years, probably not a coincidence now that 30-some states have legalized sports betting. Now, Alabama is not one of them quite yet, but the alumni out there bet on their teams. The coaches know this, and now the point spread is widely available and acceptable to know by all the coaches. I wouldn't be shocked if these guys are trying to punch in a late touchdown whenever possible. I think it's yet another reason to play these big favorites in mismatches, and Alabama minus 31 qualifies once again.
Catch Steve on wagertalk.com with all the college football selections. The NFL and Major League Baseball playoffs are headed our way. And then, of course, Steve, again, joins us on all the team channels across the Voice of College Football with these segments. But the under the radar selection, you've got to be a premium member on either YouTube or Patreon to take advantage. You may want to do that. Steve's at 22-5 against the spread. College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last two seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.